On to other news now. The Algerian Foreign Ministry has recalled its ambassador to Morocco and hinted at possible further measures in the latest flare-up of tension between the North African neighbors over the disputed territory of Western Sahara. Sovereignty over Western Sahara is contested between Morocco and the Polisario Front, and whilst many countries around the world recognize the territory as being independent from Rabat, its legal status remains unresolved. The United Nations considers it to be a self-governing territory. Earlier this year, the Polisario Front leader Brahim Ghali ended the 1991 ceasefire agreement between his Sahrawi independence forces and the Moroccan army, which has occupied most of Western Sahara since 1975. To tell us more about the current situation, my colleague Peter Ndoro spoke to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Mohamed Salem Ould Salek.
Minister Ould Salek, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps we can start by finding out how the leader of the Western Sahara independence movement is doing, Mr. Brahim Ghali. I know that he was in Spain recently getting some treatment.
Yes, our president, unfortunately, get like anyone, a COVID disease, virus, and he's now in a good health, and he's start working, and he's good. He's good. Thank you very much.
But what this did was cause a diplomatic row between Rabat and Madrid. This in someone getting care in a hospital.
No, Madrid is under pressure, and from Morocco, who's using some kind of blackmailing Spain and Europe. The Rabat want Madrid and the European Union to follow the declaration of Trump, who recognizes in last December the Moroccan occupation of our country. And you know, this is a violation of international law, and is a violation of the decisions by the International Court of Justice of 1975, where the court decided that Western Sahara, prior to the Spanish colonization, was not part of Morocco. And as you know, United Nations, the OAU now, African Union, the NAM, non-aligned movement, all international organizations, they don't recognize any Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara. And all those organizations recognizes the Sahrawi right for self-determination and independence. So now, Spain was looking for any pretext to put pressure on Morocco. Morocco was looking for a pretext to use, and they was using this. But at the end of the day, Morocco itself recognizes that the crisis with Spain, the crisis with Germany, the crisis with the European Parliament, is that Morocco wants now Europe to recognize Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara. And you remember that the court, the European Union Court of Justice, in 2016 and 2018 recognizes that Morocco and Western Sahara are two separate states. So Morocco is only using false argument and blackmailing Europe and Spain, and he failed.
There was a European Parliament condemnation, actually, of Morocco recently. What does that mean? Does that suggest that Europe is taking a collective position about the position of Western Sahara?
Yes, you know, this situation of the relation between Morocco and Spain and Morocco and the European Union is the result of some complicity with Europe and mainly France and Spain, with Morocco, with Moroccan aggression against Sahrawi people. And, there was covering during decades the policy of the Kingdom of Morocco, who is sending drugs to Europe, all terrorist attacks in Spain, in Madrid, in Barcelona, but also in Paris and Brussels, are Moroccan citizens. And 80% of the drug is Moroccan in Europe, the cannabis coming from Morocco. And Morocco became also exporter of drugs from Latin America, from Brazil and from Colombia. So Morocco constitutes today a big threat. Now, France, and mainly some French newspapers and media, and in Spain, was selling a picture of Morocco, who is as a democratic country, very moderated country, friend of Europe, defending against illegal immigration, partner in the fight against terrorism, while Morocco is absolutely the contrary. Morocco is committing gross violation of human rights against not only the Sahrawi people, but also against the Moroccans themselves. And more than, according to some media today in Morocco and outside Morocco, more than 75% of the Moroccan young generation want to go from Morocco to Europe, because, the only those who are controlling the economical situation in Morocco are the king and few people. So there is no opportunity for the Moroccan in their country. So this image has been clear after this invasion by the Moroccan citizens to Ceuta, and the crisis between Spain and Morocco is because Morocco wants to change the game and to change the relation with Europe by blackmailing European Union and its countries to recognize Moroccan sovereignty, illegal sovereignty over Western Sahara. And that's why the crisis. Now, speaking to giving another argument and giving another interpretation to the conflict today and to the crisis today between Morocco and Spain and European Union is not true.
All right, so you talked about the Trump recognition of Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara. Has that position changed since President Biden has now come into the White House?
But let's begin first to say that Trump cannot give a country, a people, to another country. This is like to go back to the era of the jungle. This is not only against the international law, the Court of Justice decisions, or the international organization, AU and United Nations Security Council and General Assembly resolution and decision. This is against the morality. How you can give a country, a people, how you can change the border and to recognize an occupation, an illegal occupation, by just a decision in the margin of a transaction. This it shows that any basic element of international law have been violated in this case. So now we think that United States of America, as a permanent member of the Security Council, have the duty and the responsibility to do whatever they can to impose the respect of the international legality. And you know that Morocco is violating since 1975 the international legality by occupying illegally a part of our country. The United States of America is the pen holder on all the resolution of Western Sahara at the level of Security Council. So how can United States of America be judge and party in this issue of Western Sahara? Is also important to say that the interest of the international community is to see an administration, an American and North American administration, who is leading internationally, but on the basis of what United Nations and international relation is based on, which are the respect of the border, the right for self-determination, and the new administration is of Biden. They are saying that they are evaluating the Trump legacy, this very, very sad and very bad legacy on the Western Sahara issue. And in the United States itself, inside the Congress, the Senate, there is a big and strong opposition to the declaration of Trump, and they are asking the new administration to avoid it and to take the same position, the traditional position of the United States of America at the level of Security Council.
All right, so we have a position, it looks like, in terms of how Europe see the situation between Western Sahara and Morocco, and perhaps the US will become clearer as time goes on. What about here on the continent? What is the position the African Union has taken?
The position of the African Union is that, especially after 13 November, because the hostility, the military confrontation, the war has started. Because, you know, Morocco refused to implement the plan we agreed upon under the auspices of the OEU and the United Nations, violating the ceasefire and refusing the organization of the referendum of Western Sahara, which is the main objective and the main task of the MINURSO, the mission there. So the African Union, at the level of the head of states and government during the summit of Silence on the Gun, has decided, that summit, extraordinary summit, decided to that the Sahrawi Republic and the Kingdom of Morocco, who are two member states, must negotiate to find a solution in accordance with the Constitutive Act, who said clearly that the member states must respect the border existing during the independence, which are the border inherited from the colonial era. 1. 2, to respect, in finding the solution, the right of the people of Western Sahara to self-determination and independence. And during the last decision by the CPS, the Peace and Security Council, at the level of head of states, it decided to create a mechanism and to send a delegation of finding fact delegation to Sahrawi Republic and to Morocco, and to push the two countries to sit and to negotiate under the umbrella of United Nations and the African Union. But Morocco refused. So the position of the African Union is that there are two countries, Sahrawi Republic and Morocco, who are in war, but it's clear that who is the aggressor and who is the people who is defending his right and his territorial integrity. The Sahrawi Republic is facing an aggression and it is the duty of the African Union to stand up and to defend the Constitutive Act and the provision, and to impose to Morocco, who is a new country, because Morocco is, since 2017, when Morocco was admitted, since that time, he's creating problem everywhere, including in the PAP, Pan-African Parliament, based in South Africa. And Morocco is creating division everywhere. In all summit, executive council meetings, Morocco is creating animosity, division, confusion, and to, unfortunately, to weakness our continental organization. So this is an opportunity for me, on behalf of the Sahrawi people, to make an appeal to all African countries, to be aware that the strategy of Morocco is to put us together, put us in a confrontation, which is not the objective of our union. Our union was created since the 60s to fight against apartheid and colonialism and to put the African people together. So Morocco, unfortunately, when he come back to our union, after 33 years out of our organization, he came with this strategy to divide and to impose, like what he's doing now with Europe. He wants the African Union and the African people to accept that an African country, which is Morocco, colonize another African country. How come an African country become a colonizer if we are fighting, we fought and we are fighting against colonialism and East siege? So this is my appeal.
All right. So you're in a state of war currently with Rabat. You've said recently that this war will jeopardize security not only in the Maghreb region, but also in Europe. How so?
Well, because geographically, between Morocco and Spain, there is only 14 kilometers. So we are in Northwest Africa. We are the immediate neighbor to Europe. And Morocco constitutes a threat, not only against Sahrawi people and its independence, against Sahrawi Republic, but also all neighbors. With Algeria, the border are closed since 1994. With Sahrawi Republic, we are in war. With Spain, you see what is happening. Morocco is fueling by drug the whole region. And the terrorist group in northern Mali, their fund come from these Moroccan drug. So we appeal in Africa to African leaders and to European to join effort, and United Nations to join effort to impose to Morocco to respect the international legality, to respect its own border, and to change the policy by having good relation with its neighbor. That's what we need.
So this conflict has been ongoing since 1975, war, ceasefire, war. And I just wonder, with this latest round of conflict, what do you see as the conditions necessary to be met for a new ceasefire and a new beginning of negotiations?
This needs two important elements. One, that the difficulties is not coming from Rabat only. The difficulties are coming from inside of the Security Council, where there are complicity with Moroccan occupation. I'm speaking clearly about France. It's France who opposed the organization of the referendum. Because after 16 years of war, the late King Hassan of Morocco, accepted to go to the referendum under the auspices of United Nations and the OEU. We signed these after 16 years of war. And that's why we stopped the war. We accept the ceasefire to allow the organization of the referendum, which means the deal was that we accept the ceasefire while Morocco accepts the referendum, in accordance with the nature of the conflict of Western Sahara, which is a conflict of decolonization. As I said, Western Sahara never been part of Morocco prior to the Spanish colonization. And this issue is inscribed in the agenda of General Assembly since the 60s. Each year, the General Assembly of United Nations reaffirms the right of the people of Western Sahara to self-determination. So now, the Security Council, who created the MINURSO, the Mission of the United Nations for the referendum in Western Sahara, and in its name, the name of the mission is very clear. It's a mission for referendum. When France and some other, Spain also, but mainly France, saw that the outcome of the referendum going to be automatically the independence, they start helping Morocco to come out from the deal, from the agreement we signed. And this is very, very, very bad. This is double standard game, where you see France sending troops in some countries in Africa to impose democracy and human rights, and to impose, for example, in Mali, the respect of the border inherited from the colonial era. While in Western Sahara, they are doing absolutely the contrary. Is France at the Security Council, who refused the mission of United Nations, the MINURSO, there, to have the duty, the mandate to monitor the human rights, according to the all international human rights organization like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Frontline, and other, Kennedy Center of Human Rights and Democracy, all of them are condemning daily. This week, Frontline and Amnesty International issued a communique. You know, in Western Sahara occupied territory, not only the killing, the daily killing, hundreds of disappearances, torture, rapes, and also the plunder of our resources. There is a big complicity of those who are guarantors. If the judge is party, you cannot move. So our problem is not only Morocco, is also inside of the Security Council. Let's compare these to the case of Namibia and even the abolition of the apartheid. The problem in Africa, Frontline states and the whole OEU members we have been fighting for democracy in South Africa, not a racial position. We are saying democracy for all South African. And in Namibia, self-determination and independence. In South Africa, we have been asking for one man, one vote. Who have been delaying the resolution, for example, in Namibia, 3, 4, 5. It was some countries, among them France, was the complicity with the apartheid was coming from the Security Council. Exactly the same in the case of Western Sahara, unfortunately. So we need two things. One, more solidarity from Africa and abroad with the people of Western Sahara, who is fighting in self-defense and for self-determination and independence. We are not part of Morocco. This is not a secession. Morocco is an invader. Everybody knows this. The International Court of Justice has said this in 1975. The European Court are saying this, 2016 and 2018. And all international organizations are recognizing the self-determination, right to self-determination of people of Western Sahara. So now we need the support. And two, the Sahrawis are fighting themselves. We are unanimous in continuing our struggle. It's a question of dignity, of African dignity and Sahrawi dignity. So we will fight until the respect of our right for liberty, freedom, and independence.
All right, so I am mindful of time, and I think you've given us an indication of what the situation is like in the occupied territories. But perhaps finally, if you could just reflect for a few moments on the situation of the refugees that are stuck in Algeria.
They are surviving, but with big hope and big determination to continue in the harsh condition, even in a humanitarian situation, very, very difficult. But this is question, as I said, of dignity and question of honor and also of right. So we will fight beside the situation of the refugees, and they are unanimous too in continuing the war and continuing the struggle for freedom.
Minister Mohamed Salem Ould Salek, Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. Thank you very, very much indeed for your time and joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Peter.